Jupiter and Venus. This is another one of those combinations that most people really expect to work out very well, but doesn't always work out so well. It can, because they are two benefic planets, but that's a lot of benefic. That's a lot of grace. And sometimes when you get too much of something, it's like too much luxury. It actually hurts you in the long run. But of course, with all things, there will be both positive and negative experiences with Jupiter and Venus. Now, conjunctions of Jupiter and Venus are going to be the most important thing to watch for. Conjunctions of Jupiter and Venus, you're going to have Jupiter supporting Venus, because Jupiter, he's not an enemy to anybody. He supports anyone who he's with. So when Jupiter is with Venus, he's going to support the appreciation of beauty, the skillfulness in making good decisions within this world. He's going to support and expand one's capacity for artistry. It's going to support an interest in humanitarian causes, because Jupiter and Venus being benefics, they are the gurus, they are the Brahmins within the chart. Get them together, these are the positive things that occur. They're going to give a great capacity to be a good counselor. Why? Because Venus is said to be an astrologer, as is Jupiter. Venus is good about doing specific predictions, like you will make this much money on that date. Jupiter is good about giving counsel, about showing you're going through this problem, this is how it fits into the bigger picture. So we have the bigger picture Jupiter, and we have the specific down-to-earth worldly Venus. Bringing them together, it gives great capacity to give counsel, both in the bigger picture as well as with worldly mundane affairs related to Venus. It can make a person very good at political things. They might have political interests or an interest in supporting and sustaining their culture. It can make one a very, very good diplomat. They'll enjoy being diplomatic. It can make a person interested in social work, working for social justice. It can also bring a great sense of wealth and abundance to the individual, because that's what Jupiter represents, the wealth itself, and Venus represents the luxury that comes with wealth. So sometimes you can have a great Jupiter, which gives the wealth and the support, but you don't have a great Venus, which doesn't give the luxury. Or you can have a great Venus, which gives the desire for all the luxury, but not all the money to go with it. So that's when you get people who have all the newest cars, the biggest houses, but they've got what they call golden handcuffs, where they're so far in debt that they can't necessarily, over the long term, support the luxury that Venus would require. So we know that Jupiter helps Venus, but what happens when Venus is with Jupiter? Well, Venus is an enemy to Jupiter, just like when Mercury is with Jupiter. And that Jupiter tends to get starved by Venus, hurt by Venus. Jupiter's agenda gets drained. Jupiter wants to be happy just because. He wants to be happy. He wants to see the bigger picture. He wants to be wise. He wants to be free. He wants to be unbounded, expansive. Venus wants to enjoy the senses, the luxuries of life, the fine things. And when you get Venus and Jupiter together, well, that can give all the positivity that we discussed. On the negative, oftentimes a person will not be as happy as they could be because they're bound a little bit more towards worldly desires. They're looking for expression of their wisdom and of their joy in worldly things, which is, while can be fun and enjoyable, in the end is still binding to the individual. So a person's wisdom might be somewhat skewed due to a desire towards luxury and refined things and being pleased within the world. A Jupiter's happiness may be skewed because they keep thinking that if they just get the next big thing, or if they just increase their wealth, or if they just go on this trip or this vacation, that they'll be happy. When really that's not what Jupiter is so much about. Jupiter is about wealth, certainly, but the wealth is to be free with wealth, which is why Jupiter is often referenced to be related to charity. And when you get Jupiter and Venus together, oftentimes the person's charity is because they want to get something out of it. It's still good for the people that they're being charitable towards. But that Jupiter gets just a little bit off track from its original agenda. And there's a book called Bhavartana Ratnakara, I think, where it talks about the Jupiter-Venus dasha. It says this can be a pretty difficult dasha because Venus and Jupiter have such opposite agendas usually. And that when a person goes into that particular dasha, there's going to be some kind of sacrifice they have to make. And so it's not necessarily the most pleasant dasha, even though it's the dasha of two benefic planets. So we have to bear this in mind, that the agendas are not quite the same. Now, on the other hand, a Venus-Jupiter dasha could be very good, because that Venus is getting supported by Jupiter, and Jupiter is always going to help Venus. So the Venetian things are going to get supported. But we have to remember that they have two different kinds of agendas. So the negatives, it can make a person too focused on luxury, on leisure, on being comfortable. And when you're too focused on being comfortable, then you can't really do things that are uncomfortable. Those are the kind of people that when the things get tough, they kind of buckle. They don't really do very well because they don't know what to do. They've been taken care of so much within their life. So you always want to have this Jupiter and Venus combination balanced out by a proficient Saturn or Mars so that you can do the hard work when it's necessary. But just to have Jupiter and Venus as the dominating factors within your chart, that tends to make a person somewhat lazy or not willing to do the nitty-gritty hard work, not willing to say, I don't like this, but I'm going to do it anyway. They want things typically given to them. Jupiter and Venus can also cause a person to waste their energy and their resources in pleasures and seeking of luxury. They can have difficulty with discipline and routine. So oftentimes with Jupiter and Venus, they have to focus on developing a disciplined schedule, focus on developing routine within their life. Whatever house Jupiter and Venus is in, there will be a lot of luxury, there will be a lot of support, assuming that these planets are ruling over houses that give that. For example, if you get Jupiter or Venus ruling over the 6th, 8th, or 12th houses, or even the 3rd house, maybe that's going to get in the way a lot of this. But if everything else is supportive of it, the ruling over houses that are helpful, you'll find a lot of grace, support, luxury, knowledge, enjoyment. But there will always be the sense of lack, because what they're looking for, fulfillment of Jupiter, they're looking for it in the mundane material world, the sensate world of Venus. So oftentimes we want to keep these two planets separate, because we want Venus situated in the chart such that it's supporting our capacity to achieve our goals in a healthy-minded fashion, which leads to our higher fulfillment. But we want Jupiter situated such that we can be happy no matter what happens, whether we have luxury or whether we don't have luxury. But getting these two together, it's a mixed bag. Again, as we've said in other videos of combinations, it's not like getting Saturn and Sun together. It's not like getting Rahu and Mars together, where you have a lot of frustration and a lot of things really going wrong. This kind of problem is the problem of like the king or the wealthy person, where the individual gets gout because they eat rich foods all day long and they never exercise. So on one hand, it's good because they don't have to worry about anything and they're being pampered and spoiled. But on the other hand, it's bad because they're not taking care of themselves. So Jupiter and Venus often give difficulties due to too much of something. Too much, too much indulgence, too much expectation from the world and so on. But Jupiter dealing with expansion and opportunities, and Jupiter helping to expand the agendas of the planet that it's with, this can give a great appreciation for beauty and form and create a very beautiful, lovely individual, because it takes that grace of Jupiter and infuses the physical form, the beauty of Venus. So it's not all bad, and it's not all good either. You just have to be very conscious of how that Jupiter and Venus is functioning within your life, within your chart, and try to live with it in the highest, most conscious fashion possible, as with all these combinations.